Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova. This morning I'd like to share a wonderful story about Howard Schultz, the former chairman and CEO of Starbucks, and Rabbi Nazim Tzvi Finkel, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir, which is the largest yeshiva in the world. The coffee magnate, along with a delegation of entrepreneurs, met with the rabbi in the religious neighborhood of Mea Shearim, located in Jerusalem. Schultz admitted at first that he really didn't know much about Rabbi Finkel, nor the yeshiva that he led. And after 15 minutes of anticipation, the sage welcomed them in his study. Schultz immediately noticed that Rabbi Finkel was severely suffering from Parkinson's disease. Schultz and the group, they naturally looked away because they didn't want to embarrass this incredible rabbi. Rabbi Finkel banged on the table and he said, "Gentlemen, look at me right now. I know that you are so busy for what you do in the business world, so therefore I got 15 minutes for you." Then the rabbi asked, "Who can tell me what the lesson of the Holocaust is?" And even the acumen of these entrepreneurs and business magnates, they couldn't find the right answer. One answered, "We will never forget." Another person nervously answered, "We will never, ever again be a victim or a bystander." Rabbi Finkel quickly dismissed both answers. He said, "You just don't get it. And let me tell you the essence of the human spirit. During the Holocaust, the people were transported in the worst possible inhumane way by rail car to a death camp. And after hours in this inhumane cold corral with no light and bathroom, they arrived at the camp. The train door swung open, men were separated from women, mothers from daughters, and fathers from sons. As they went into the bunkers, only one person was given a blanket for every 6. The person who received the blanket needed to decide, am I going to push the blanket to 5 people who do not get one, or am I going to keep it for myself and stay warm? Rabbi Finkel concluded, it was during this defining moment that we learned the human spirit, this power, when we push the blanket to 5 others. Now take your blanket, take it back to America, and push it to 5 people. This is truly a wonderful message from 2, we can say, totally different people. A successful businessman who changed the coffee scene and an ultra-Orthodox rabbi. But sometimes it's the stories like this that really capture the spirit of the high holidays. It's at this moment when we welcome the new year, we yearn for hope and for new purpose. It's when we muster the strength to push the blanket so that 5 other people can be covered, as Rabbi Finkel really asks of all of us. But before we can do this, I think so many of us just want a better year. Since the first week of March, we've been hanging on a thread due to the pandemic. Some of us were hit hard, others of us were dealt a knockout blow. We thought about bankruptcy, we waited patiently for the PPP loan to arrive. The volatility of the economy certainly increased our anxiety. This disaster hit our pensions, our college funds, our savings, and we were also afraid, lonely, and isolated. We miss spending time with our family, our grandchildren, and friends. And many of us are still shell-shocked, trying to regroup and trying to recoup what was taken and what was unjustly removed from us. It's also been a tough year for this Temple family. We've experienced sudden staffing changes. We've welcomed new faces, new voices, a new organizational chart, and a new collaborative vision with leadership and staff. Novelty can be a rewarding experience, but sudden interruptions and uncertainty, it can still slither on the surface. We all know that change in general is difficult, and dealing with synagogue change during a pandemic, there's only one expression that we truly can say: oy vey. But nevertheless, the high holidays remind us about patience and introspection. It's during the high holidays is when we stand in judgment and assess our situation. Our liturgy teaches us that we cannot control our mortality, or whether the wheel of fortune will turn favorably in our direction. But Judaism has always tells us that we have the ability to respond to all of life as it is presented to us, even during this difficult year that we have all experienced. And during this defining moment of the coronavirus, we learned the power of the human spirit with ourselves and with our community. So many of you pushed and covered our city with your blankets. You have spent countless hours volunteering at food banks. You supported our most vulnerable populations. You have offered care, supplied school lunches, financial assistance, and emotional support. And some of our Birmingham Jewish agencies repurpose its operations to ensure that our Jewish values reaches every corner of this city during our trying times. And it's no surprise that Judaism teaches us, one who has fed strangers may have fed angels. But there's one question that still must be answered this morning. How can Temple Emanu-El push its blanket onto each of you? During these unprecedented times, synagogues are going to face a major crisis. We expect that some families will consider a sabbatical from synagogue life this year, or sadly, indefinitely. Some families can't commit to an additional online learning for their children's Jewish education. Our 138-year-old multi-generational synagogue is heading directly into a storm that we have never experienced in our existence. And as your rabbi, I feel that I must respond to these pressing concerns, especially as we welcome a new year, still filled with uncertainty, obstacles, and of course, empty pews. Because long before the coronavirus even reached our shores, America was still facing a battle with another epidemic: loneliness. Nearly 2/3 of Americans reported being chronically lonely before social distancing measures. And before these social distancing measures were forced upon us, this country saw a massive increase of deaths by suicide. Anticipating a greater mental health crisis, Temple Emanu-El would not allow loneliness to continue to wreak havoc on our members. This synagogue took on this crisis head on because this is what we do. Though we could not be together physically, the advancement of technology allowed us to celebrate the joys of Judaism together, just in a new virtual realm with some slight and early complications. Although, while it is true it took us time to learn how to Zoom, or even to unmute ourselves, or to figure out who the host was, we still saw each other's faces. We still studied the Torah. We still welcomed Shabbat Queen. And we even celebrated our students becoming a Beit Mitzvah. And we still had our lunches with Hal on Fridays. It's not surprising that a recent survey indicated that individuals belonging to a religious community during this pandemic felt less lonely than those who do not affiliate with the house of worship. Sometimes we can feel the warmth of a blanket, even through a computer screen. But when we can safely gather together, it's here where we have come together to educate our children and where we deepen understanding and connection to Judaism. It's here where we open a prayer book and the generations that went before you come alive within you. It's here where we comfort the mourner. Temple Emanu-El is not only our bond to our past, it is also a bond to the Jewish people of the present. And as the great Rabbi Jack Reimer perfectly reminds us, the sense of being connected in this time of great isolation, loneliness, and belittlement creates healing because we are members of a temple family. Rabbi Finkel passed away in 2011, and since his death 9 years ago, I think it's accurate to point out that we've become more decisive, more judgmental, and even tribal. We are living in a polarized world separated by our absolute ideologies and political philosophies. As a Jewish community, we've seen such divisions unfortunately play out inside this sacred space we call the synagogue. So for us to survive and grow in a COVID and tribal world, the synagogue can't be a place that exacerbates the brokenness and divisions. It must be a special place where we gather together, free from the punditry and anxiety. It must be a place that provides refuge for suffering. It must be a place that gives us the tools to repair our souls and our community. When we do this, we allow the synagogue to return to its purpose for existence, to learn the power of the human spirit so that we can push the blanket and cover everybody. And despite our current circumstances that we face, Temple Emanu-El will always push the blanket and cover all of us. So for those considering or have even taken a break from us, just remember that we're still here, waiting for you to come back. We're not going away. Our doors will never close. Our support is unending. And when you do return, allow this temple family to heal the isolation, the loneliness, and the belittlement. This is what we've been doing since 1882. Shana Tova.